what's left of the flute I was making. Let me see. I did end up drilling the rest of the way through after I struck a rather large knot. You can see here. Let me get some light in there. You can see there where the bit brought up, and I put a little bit of force on it, and the entire thing went snappo. So yeah, starting over from scratch. And when I say starting over from scratch, I mean that quite literally. I'm going to be stripping down a piece of wood. Again, I'll do the same exact process. I'm going to make the flute a little bit shorter so that I avoid that problem of cross drilling. So, I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. I double at 22. So yeah, if you've been following what I've been doing, I've been trying to make a flute for a friend of mine who's a musician. Unfortunately, the first two attempts have ended in failure. The first one, the tone was incorrect, and this is what happened to the second one. Now, to be fair, it didn't explode like this. What happened was I struck a knot or something else that was making a lot of resistance just as I was about to finish the final drilling, and put a little bit of force down in the vise and heard a disappointing crack. So that was the end of this. And that is now firewood for somebody, because there is no way that's any use for anything else. Oops. Get in there, you. And yes, I do keep a little box of firewood over to one side. So what I have to do now is start from scratch. I'm actually going to lift the angle of this a little bit. Okay, I'm going to have to move a few things around behind the camera first so that I can move this out and put that there. Okay, there we go. I saw a second chat. What was it? Oof. Yeah, hi, Atherline. Yeah. Well, you know, I might as well put my face on camera. Shit happens. And, again, this is only my, well, technically it's my first attempt at making a flute. Glad I made it at the part you're going to start from scratch. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is the third time I've had to do this. For the record, I'm putting the gloves on, even though I hate woodworking with gloves on, because this is very, very sticky wood. This is the straightest piece I have that's going to be the right length. I've already marked it for cutting. There, okay. Not great. Maybe I got something a little straighter. What I have that's straighter is way beefier. And, okay, I'll go with this. So, what I'm going to do is lay out the towel, which is generally how I start because that's my mess catcher. Put that down underneath there. Oh, I didn't realize that was actually sitting against the wall that way. So I'm just pulling my woodworking table off from the wall a little bit. Normally, what I would do would be to clamp the towel down, but having done this a few times, I now realize that that's unnecessary. All I really need to do is make sure that the towel lays out mostly flat, and I'll put my shame board over here. Actually, I'm going to move that again anyway. And then just get back down there. And my gloves are actually sticky because they came out of the wash not too long ago. One of the few good things about these gloves is I can actually machine wash them. And I'll put my shame board there. The whole point of the shame board is to give me something to throw things into when I get upset. I don't know if this will work with the glove on, so For the record, I also do that with knives. Where's that other knife? That one's there. I'm not going to throw that one this time. I just sharpened that yesterday and then took a bit more of an edge on it today. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is knock off all these little nubs. Let's see, see the whole process. What you just do when you tap the table. I'm not sure what you mean by tapping the table. You're talking about when I stuck my little point in? Like that? I didn't actually touch the table. It's kind of a throwing knife motion. So what I'm doing here, I'm just knocking these nubs off, and then I'll take the bark off. I'm going to knock the nubs off the entire length, because that just makes the whole thing easier to work with. But because I'm taking this much, actually I might go a little shorter because that's straighter down there. Yeah, okay, so I'll make my mark there. So taking all the nubs off, and then I'm going to debark this part. That's probably going to take most of an hour or an hour and a half. This is juniper that I harvested a couple of years ago from a branch, from a tree that was probably regularly exposed to saltwater spray, and because of that, my theory is that it's much harder than ordinary juniper. Juniper is not known to be a hardwood. And that's really the process, is just knocking the pieces off, getting the surface flatter, and you can see how very pink that is right in here. Let me see if I can get that closer to the camera. Yeah, you can see how really pink that is there, almost like a meat color. That's basically just the bark on this juniper. And you'll notice as well that I'm practicing very safe practice of cutting away from myself. The camera may be lying to you and showing that I'm actually coming a lot closer to my hand than I am. Okay, I can put on that end. And yeah, because this is the third time I've had to do this, I'm getting kind of old hat at this. Let me see if I can manipulate I can't. Okay, how about if I squeeze that finger down? Nope. Okay. Well, if I want to see chat, I've got to take my glove off. Let's see, live chat. There we are. Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, double at 22. You will get to see pretty much the entire process. Now, okay, so the side I'm going to keep is this end, but I don't need this very end, so that's going to get cut off there. Now, I'm actually going to, I don't want it to be quite that short, so I imagine that's why I have my original mark here. So we'll make that a little wider. Now you can see there's shiny bits on here. That's just from little sappy areas being broken open. That's what makes this so very sticky. So what I'll be doing now is just stripping off the bark, and that takes quite a bit of effort. I'll get the first layer done, and then I'll sit down and have a bit of a chat with you guys while I'm having a cigarette. This is actually a little easier this time than the last one, but then this branch is a little thinner than the last one I worked, so I'm hopeful. Yeah, you can see how very, very sappy this wood is from that shine. And like I said, this was 2 years ago that I harvested this stuff. But talking to an older fella a few days ago, I mentioned that I was working with juniper, and he pointed out to me that the way it used to be done years ago was that if they were using juniper for something, the basic process was to knock it down and take the bark off of it that day. Because unlike a lot of other woods, juniper, when it dries, doesn't seem, at least in this area, probably again because of the salt water, when it dries, it doesn't check. I don't know if you guys know woodworking terms or not. Checking is basically if I had taken another species and stripped all the bark off of it right away while it was still wet, you get sometimes a crack at the end that would look basically like that. I've had pieces that I've cut which were absolutely beautiful when I took the bark off of them the day I knocked them down, and the next day they would have a check possibly that wide in them, so maybe that deep, but you're basically looking at a crack all the way down most of the piece that basically rendered the piece completely unusable. Apparently that doesn't happen with juniper, and that's part of the reason that this process is so difficult. And in case you're wondering about the white back here, this is a piece of vinyl. Generally I use that for a back for spray painting, spray varnish, spray finishing. It just so happens to be a handy catch cloth as well. And you can see some stuff is sticking to it. That shows you how very sappy this wood still is. Okay, once I get the rest of this bark off, I'm going to sit down for a bit before I strip it down to the sapwood. In case you're wondering, there are two kinds of wood on most trees. 3 layers, basically. So you have the bark, which is the dark outer ring here. The sapwood, which is the inner ring. That's basically the circulatory system. Oh, I'm not even showing it on camera, sorry. So you have the dark outer circle is your bark. Then you have sapwood is the next layer. That's basically the tree's circulatory system. And then on the very inside, you have the heartwood, which is generally where all the mineral and extractives end up gathering. And as this dies, because it's only the outer layer of the tree that's actually alive, the water that travels through the tree travels through this layer, and then this layer basically becomes structural, kind of like a bone. But other than that, it has no purpose. And generally, the sapwood is discarded by a lot of woodworkers. I've made pieces from walnut and poplar where I've used a combination. I've made a cut intentionally to keep some of the sapwood. On walnut, that ends up looking like a very blonde highlight on the wood. On poplar, sometimes you can get purple color in the sapwood. But what happens is that will eventually fade to a very dullish brown. Still an attractive color, but not nearly as dynamic as the purple. This is still pretty green, believe it or not. Okay, now there's my mark. So I'll just line up with my mark, get these last few cuts done, and then I'm going to sit down for a cigarette with you guys. And we'll chat a bit before I go back at it. And all I'm doing right now is just getting the very outer layer of the bark off, so I can see what kind of mess I'm looking at here. Okay. And as you can see, that's messed the blade up quite nicely. So I'll grab a steel brush and sit down with that. Now, keeping the order of your gloves in mind is a good idea here, because that one shouldn't be nearly as sticky because it was holding the knife. So this one, I'm going to pull off a little more carefully because I don't really like having sap stuck to my fingers. Okay, and steel brush. Part of the reason I'm using a steel brush, and I had to get a bandana on, because I'm starting to sweat. And I actually did make a bit of a safety error, though not a terrible one. Let me bring that back up. Come on, live chat. There we are. Come on, live chat. There we are. Violence. Hi, Violence. How you doing? And Bleach. Hi, Bleach. Yeah, the first or the second flute didn't survive. I was just about finished drilling through and struck an obstruction rather than have the good sense to stop, pull the bit out, and have a look with the inspection light. I just thought, okay, it's probably just a bit of a bend, or I need to line up the holes, so I tried altering the angle, giving it a little more force, and heard a rather disheartening cracking noise. Hopefully that won't happen with this particular piece, because I have a smaller piece there now. What was Violence saying? Salty, salty, salty. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to have a sip and a smoke. I need to move that out a bit. Well, I'm going to have a sit down, clean my knife, and then have a cigarette. Oh. Yeah, that bad knee is kicking my ass tonight. So, all I'm doing for this is literally just brushing the blade. I do have to be a little bit careful. There's no lock on this blade, and I've removed the snap hook that goes on it. I have a second knife identical to that one that I keep very, very pristine, because that's used for cutting paper templates, taking tiny chips up. If I have a very small flaw in a piece, I can get into it with this point. This one is shaving sharp. And now there's little bits of ginger all over the floor. But yeah, that hook, that snap hook, that's not present on that one anymore because it was getting in the way. In fact, the hook on this one is getting in the way to the point that I may take my grinder and just knock that off altogether. Let's see, I saw something else come in, I think. Live chat. Do I have a fan or air conditioning? No, I don't. And it is very humid here tonight because we had a lot of rain over the last day and a half or so. In fact, we had so much rain last night that it actually killed my power in here. Because it tripped a ground fault interrupter. Got into the cover of the ground fault interrupter outside and set that off. Hopefully, well, I don't expect that to happen tonight. There's no rain or anything, so. And one of the few good things about being ambidextrous is I don't have to worry about pointing a blade at myself to clean it. As I was saying, though, I do have to be careful with this blade because there's no lock. It does stop there when it's pressed a little, but yeah. It's a good idea to keep in mind, no matter what you're doing, that if you're handling a sharp object, it's a sharp object. So, safety features notwithstanding, you can always manage to cut it off. It's getting there. There's a lot of sap on the other side. I'm going to make sure this side is completely clean before I go further. And yes, I am being a little bit brutal because, as I said, this one I'm more concerned about the occasional sharpening on the edge. Okay, I'm going to have to go that way with this one. It's starting to loosen up. I might have to tighten that. Unfortunately, I have tools to do that too. Okay, other than being covered in a lot of scratches, this is good. So now it's time for that cigarette. And yes, I did actually... Oh, actually, I just missed my shame board. Oh, well. Let's try that again. That's better. Live chat. No, I have no fan or air conditioning. What I have is a window that's halfway open, and if it gets particularly hot in here, I can open the garage door that's at the end. Well, I call it a garage door. It's actually just a double door made of wood. Just to give you guys a little bit of a tour of the shop. Well, are the holes in the flute going to be strategically placed based on knowledge of where they go to make the right notes? No. No. What's going to happen is that I'm going to put my hand on the flute, figure out more or less where the holes would be, and space them roughly equally. Whether that works out or not, I don't know. On the last one, I was able to do a reproducible note. Which half? Diagonal halves are best. Sorry, I just... Oh, what? Wait, no. Half a window. No, it's just a push to a side window. Size of the holes probably change the kind of notes each hole makes. No, I don't think it's the size of the holes. I think it may be the spacing, but the note, the tone more or less seems to be based on how much resonance the flute will produce. So basically how thick the walls of the flute are. The first one I made barely resonated at all. The holes, or the walls were very thick. As I said with that last one, the walls were not nearly as thick, and it did resonate far better. Unfortunately, before I got the chance to finish it and thin it down a little more, which would have given it, I hope, a better tone, yeah, shit happens. Also, I hadn't put a notch in the breathing notch for a flute. Your guess is as good as mine, double at 22. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I suspect it'll sound a little more higher pitched than, say, oh my, this will date me for sure. If you remember the show Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, Kwai Chang Caine played a flute in that. That one was probably 2 feet long or so, and that produced a very mellow note. I expect what I'm making will end up producing a significantly higher pitch. So not like a 2-liter, more like, oh my, more like a single serving. Whatever, I don't know how to describe it. It's a 355 here, 355 mils. That was the show with David Carradine. I don't think the show went on for decades, but his character was monk-ish. I think what I'm going to end up with is something closer to a piccolo sound, actually, Bleach. I don't think the character was necessarily a monk. The backstory, of course, is that Bruce Lee created this idea for the original movie Kung Fu, or the original show rather. Actually, yeah, no, you have a good point. David Carradine did star in the original show too, I think, and then they brought him back for the reboot, or not reboot, but what would it be? Well, sequel, I guess. Pre-closet character. Well, yeah, he didn't really come out of the closet, did he? No, that ended badly for everybody involved, I'm sure. I feel really bad for whoever the maid was that happened to find him. Yeah, it's a interesting thing that both David Carradine and Anthony Bourdain were into that. Even stranger that Michael Hutchence was also into it. All three, of course, died by what appears to be an autoerotic asphyxiation misadventure. Try saying that 5 times fast. No. He attempted to perform autoerotic asphyxiation on himself in a closet using the hanging rod in the closet. So hence he went into the closet and never came out. As far as I know, he wasn't actually gay. Let's see. Character was a monk. Actually, yeah, I think you're right about that. I think originally the character was a monk in the older show. I never saw the original Kung Fu. Saw the movie that was made. Never saw the show. Pre-closet didn't know he was gay. Did what with a clothes hanger? Not a clothes hanger. You know the rod, the hanging rod that you hook your hangers to. That's what he was using to wrap the belt around to. Jesus, that's gonna get clapped. Technically, a post-term coat hanger. Yeah, technically yes. What else am I looking for here? Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's the basic sound the flute will give. I hope. This time, instead of using a 5/8 bit, I'm going to step it down. I'll go down to a 3/16, and instead of trying to bore the entire thing after I've shaped the walls, I'll shape the walls slightly. What I did last time, I took off all the sapwood and then drilled it, which would have worked fine if I hadn't hit that bit of resistance. You would think so, but apparently it's quite the rush when you actually release that pressure. Did I get hung up on that sidetrack? A little bit, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't strike me as particularly erratic either, double lap 22. Let's see. Yeah, that would definitely be a far late turn. Hanger. So Bleach, seeing as how you were on Aiden's or watching Aiden's stream the same as I was, what did you think of that music video? I would call it at best based adjacent. Can't remember, did you pilot bit previously? I did pilot bit originally. I will be doing that again. I'm going to follow more or less the same process. I'm using a shorter piece of wood so that I don't have to go trying to hand crank through a middle section. This time I've basically guaranteed myself immediate overlap with the 2 drill holes from either end. I would like to have an actual bore that I could do that with, but I don't have one. And have no idea where I would get one around here since I had such a hard time finding a draw knife. Based passing, yeah, that's about right. Yeah. So yeah, let's go back to work. And down a little touch. There we go. Pull my knife out of my shame board. Come on, you. Let go! There we go. Oh, almost forgot to put my glove back on. This time I'm only putting on one glove because I'm not terribly worried about that. Though I am going to put on some iPro this time, just in case. And really, I should have been wearing it last time. Oh, what do we got going on here? A knife. A draw knife is a blade like this with 2 handles that come down on either side, and you use it literally for drawing towards yourself. Generally, it's used for stripping bark. You can also use it for light shaping. Once I get the thickest part of this off, I'm going to be left with nothing to do but essentially do a cabinet scrape on this, which is where I'll take the knife, turn it basically perpendicular, and just, you see this, okay, you can see this pale spot here as I'm taking more of the remaining bark off that's still a little thick there, so I'll shave that a little bit. And then as I'm scraping, you'll see that the bark comes up. So what I'm doing is basically shaving off most of it in fairly thick chunks, especially where the bark is fairly thick and still very sappy, surprisingly. And that's actually one of the things I would really like for this job is a draw knife, because then all I'd have to do is clamp this down, grab the draw knife and pull it towards me, rotate, same. Generally much faster, but the results are going to be the same. Okay, that's making a little too much noise for 10 o'clock at night. Though I'm fairly certain any squirrels that happen to live under my shed are now running for their lives. Which is probably a good policy, because if I get a hold of them, they're going to be without their lives. And if you guys think this is dull, you should really hang around when I actually go to do a sand on one of these, because that's going to be mind-bogglingly boring. Oh, and in the meantime, I guess I might as well do a bit of shilling. So I've got the Shades of Dominion live stream for that game tomorrow night. That'll be on the Carnal Conservatives channel. I'll be shilling that out in the morning. And I'll make sure to put the link in my daily video description. Come on, you. There we go. Just checking the camera angle to see if you guys can see my little fitness device just above my head here, but at this angle you can't. I'll show it to you in just a second. I did promise you guys a bit of a tour of the shed as it was. Okay. I think I'm deep enough now that I can, yeah, okay, I can rapid shave that. So I will give you guys a bit of a tour here now. That's the double doors I was talking about. That's the chair. And that's the cabinet behind the camera with my saws on the wall there. And my clamps are over here. And I'm back here. So I'm going to be sitting down again now, mostly because I don't need to stand at that table to do the next part of this. I do apologize for the crotch shot, but it's definitely easier to do this work when I'm sitting. There we are. And I'm actually going to move the camera a little to the side. I can put that there for a minute. Okay. I'm just using a microphone tripod to put my camera on, so... Oh, okay. Can't pick live chat, stuck on top chat. Huh. Top chat. Live chat. Okay, I wonder if that will have made any... Oh, that was useless. Anyway, nice to see you, Caucasian. Or Sasquatch. One of these times I'll decide on which one of those I'm going to call you. So yeah, right now I've got... I'll just use the glove to pick that up. I've got half of the new flute started. Just sitting down to do some stripping on the rest of this dark color here. Once that's done, I'm going to call it quits for the night. It's later than I expected when Spoon and Aiden finished their stuff, so I can take those off. Oh, let's see what's going on in chat, if I can. Come on. Honky Squatch. I don't know if he'd be particularly opposed to Squanchy, but that would be an option. Let's see here. Build, woodshop, work, woodwork, learning, building, flute, making stuff, building stuff, live stream. Okay. I miss my old drawing knife, made tons of walking stick and axe handles. Yeah. I used to have one years and years ago. I don't know what happened to it. Is this wood going to have sap when all the bark is off? No, once the bark is off, I can handle it barehanded, and it's not the slightest bit sticky. I think I have seen another dude using a draw. This is Billy Blogs. Hi, Billy. Nice to see you. I think I've seen another dude using a draw knife. Canadian Chad stripping a tree. Is that the older fella? Does it with his shirt off? Yeah, that dude is fucking... He's a brute. Sasquatch says he can't pick live chat. He's stuck on top chat. I don't know why that would be. Not a fan how it defaults to top. No, neither am I. I would far prefer that it defaulted to live, or just didn't have the option for either. I don't know what the purpose of top chat is meant to be anyway. Seems to be a good amount of places to put stuff. Storage is very important. I have storage under my bench and under this table as well. Chippendales confirmed. Chippendales. Okay. Older fellow with a shirt off. Yeah, that was the guy that was talking about the Great Reset the other day, I think. If I recall correctly. Anyway, guys, I'm going to be rude and let you stare at my groin for a while. Fortunately, I've been nice enough to cover it with my apron. But you do get to stare at my sexy, sexy ankles. And I do have pretty massive calves for a fat dude. But that's because I'm a fat dude. I have to carry this 300 pounds around a lot, so... Oh, I see someone... Yes, older fella, Billy Blogs, question mark. Yeah, that was the guy I was talking about, Billy, I think. At least if that's what your question mark was about. If you're wondering... Blinding white. Oh, no. That's a tan, dude. Blinding white is, like, up here. I mean, I don't say I'm a ginger for nothing. Now, as I'm going to be cutting pretty much this much of the end off, I'm not particularly worried about clearing it all the way up at this point. Mostly what I'm doing is focusing on getting it down to the sapwood, like I said. And yes, I do know the cardinal rule of using a knife is to never cut towards yourself. However, because I'm wearing a glove and using a downward angle on the knife, I'm not particularly worried about cutting myself. If I do cut myself with this knife, the likelihood is that it's going to be very, very minor. I may bleed, but it won't be anything permanent, and probably nothing scarring. Though I do have quite a few interesting scars with interesting stories on my arms. I'm a firm believer that if you're going to get scarred, you better get a good story out of it. Or at least come up with a good story to tell about it. For example, the scar here on my hand, right on the edge of my thumb, which is kind of hard to see on camera, it's quite old. I got that when I was wrestling a bear when I was 3 years old. Just kidding. It was the last day of grade 3, and BMXs were very popular, and because I was a boy, I liked to go very, very fast on downhill roads. This day, I was riding on a gravel road that hadn't seen maintenance for quite a while, so there were quite a few potholes. What happened was I basically was wearing a baseball cap. I was going so fast that the wind pulled the baseball cap off my head. I turned my head to see where the cap had gone because my friends were coming down the hill behind me. I was in the lead, being the heaviest guy with the best grasp of aerodynamics. I had substantially more speed than they did. And what happened was when I turned my head, I was holding, and I can show you this now, this isn't particularly sappy even now. I was holding the handlebars, and the handlebars did this, turned that much. And that meant the wheel went just slightly out of alignment for the road. At about that exact same second, what I figure happened was that I bounced off a rock and came down into a pothole where I stopped solid, or at least the bike did. I kept going and was airborne for long enough to realize I was airborne and get my hands over my face, crossed my arms in a sort of a V fashion, with my palms facing outward. And that's why I have that scar there, which is a little more noticeable than it used to be, or a little less noticeable than it used to be, I should say, and actually ended up scraping pretty much the entirety of my cheeks pretty badly. I have, I'll just bring my face back up. I have a couple of tiny scars here, and the reason I grow a very patchy beard is because when I got home, which was just up the hill, basically my entire face, other than this, was this color. Yeah, so lots and lots of scar tissue. So yeah, don't really grow a good beard. Okay. Older color, blinding white, chroma scale just glitched. It does that a lot with me. No self-cutting, no worries. I will not cut myself. Cut wood, not yourself. Good call, double lot 22. Brain damage, no brain damage. Well, not from that. And as far as I know, I don't have any brain damage. It sounds bad. It looked worse, but I was fine. And oddly enough, the bike was fine as well. One hell of a wreck beats being flung into a barbed wire fence. Yes. It also beats having a couch dropped on you from the second story. That's where this lovely scar came from. Oh, wow. Sorry about that. Okay, I've got to manipulate this a little differently this time. Yeah, I will understand if you guys start screaming about your eyes. Ironically, the chroma on my camera is very sensitive, and occasionally in the morning I've had to turn on the lights in the shed here because the sunlight coming in and hitting me in the face has basically blown the light balance completely to hell. Oh, that's a little knot there. There we go. And I really have to have, oh, there it is. I had a cloth for this. I'm not going to bother this time because I'm not going to be at this that long. When I start shaping this down and actually taking sapwood off, I'll be wrapping this in a cloth so that I can tuck it under my arm and get a better grip on it. But this process will be fairly quick. Though it does leave quite a lot of tool mark on it. I'm not too concerned about that. That's something I can sand off later. And I guess I left a little bit of thicker bark down towards this end than I thought before I sat down. There. Yeah, I'm going to try to take as much of this as I can. So that needs to be, that's very pink and very thick. Now, as you can see under here, once I get this piece of bark stripped off here, even though this is 2 years old, this is still very green. Fresh, basically. If you're not a wood person. Which won't necessarily mean it's wet, it just means that it hasn't taken on any aging effect yet. One thing I am discovering is that I very much enjoy working with this wood because it does have a beautiful grain pattern to it. And it's significantly harder than I expected, but for all that, it's really quite nice to work with. Now that there I'm going to have a problem with later. But what will probably happen is, as I'm shaving off the sapwood, yeah, you can see that these branch nubs are starting to disappear. So I'm going to leave that for now. That'll be a problem for later. I can feel that going into my boot. And not too much left now. Okay. Okay, let me clear this angle and then I'll have another look at chat. And I will show you guys what grip I'm using on the knife in just a second as well. Now that I've just modified my grip. Okay, since that's, oh, that's very green. Okay. Okay, now, one of the things I do like about working with this wood is it shaves beautifully. Now, just to illustrate the grip I'm using, I'm actually pinching just below the blade, so my fingers are not actually in contact with the edge. That thumb might be weaning over a little bit, but I've got a pretty good callus there, so I'm not terribly worried about it. And I did say I was going to come back to chat here now, so let's strip that just a little bit. Get that lined up. And yeah, that's some more of that thick bark that I didn't quite get as thinned out as I thought I did over by the table. So I'll get some more of that off. And that must be, yeah, this is the base of the branch. So the branch was sitting basically at this angle on the tree. So all the force would have been down here, which is why this is so much harder, because the fibers there were stressed more, so they would have grown a little thicker. Okay, so let's put that down for a minute and see what you guys are saying. Back to the face. Hopefully the chrome is not too glitched this time. Well, if I keep my arms down, it isn't. And of course I have to scratch. Let's see here. Brain damage. I potentially had brain damage from repeated concussions when I spent a summer doing a bit of pro wrestling in St. John's. I don't think I have any brain damage. I don't seem to have any particular amount of whatchamacallit, recall issue. Bleach says my white privilege is showing. Yeah, clearly. Not the best mitigation strategy. Rolling would be better. Now, see, Billy, I was 8 years old. And now I know this. But back then, not so much. Molly back in here for sappy comments. Holly, yeah. I'm kind of surprised she's not here. I figured I'd do this a bit late again to give her a chance to pop in. They call this whittling. Any video of you hunting the wood? No, unfortunately, I was not on YouTube at the time. Actually, I think it was that fall that I had made my first YouTube video. And that would be on a different channel now, if it's even still online, of a race. The Targa, Newfoundland, they did what's known as the Targa Bambina, which is a short race in a town close by. And my nephew, being a very big fan of cars, we went to watch the race. He sat with his grandmother in the car, and I climbed up on a brushwork, an oceanside barrier. Ardent the Great White Wood Hunter. Yes, I'll take that. Somebody did say working my wood again earlier. Where was that? Billy, yeah. Yeah, I spend a lot of time working my wood. Really need a girlfriend. I suppose I could carve one. There's guys on the Lotus Eaters chat who build robo waifus. I don't know why I couldn't have a wooden waifu. And the good thing about a wooden waifu is you can always make the tits whatever size you want. Oh god, that's a terrible, terrible thing to say on YouTube. Please don't strike me, Susan. However, Susan, you should realize that should you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Because I'll just go to fucking Rumble. For the record, if you guys do end up missing me for a week or two, or I seem to have disappeared in the middle of a stream, and you suspect I got struck, I will immediately start uploading more things to my to my Rumble account immediately after that happens. I'm also planning to start uploading to my Odyssey and try and get that to the level that I can get it synced with my YouTube. A wooden wife would be good. Terrible puns. Wooden robo waifu could be made. That's true. If she nags you, you can get warned by the just desserts. Also true. Or I could sell her, and that would be perfectly legal. Although, I can't imagine an ad for a secondhand wooden robo waifu would get a lot of interest. It's the secondhand part more than anything, I imagine. That is coming off very nicely. Holy crap, I just saw that. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so let's just bring that back down to my lap again. And, nope, not sticky. Good. I think I'm lucky enough that the glove has now absorbed a lot of the sap that's left on the surface of this. And as I said, I'm not particularly concerned with this surface because, as you can see, there's a substantial amount of heartwood in here. This sapwood I'm going to remove completely this time. But what I'm going to do this time, unlike last time, is I am going to drill it first and then shape it down and then add the extra holes, the finger holes and the notch for breathing. Whatever that happens to be called. Mouthpiece, I suppose. Nostrum, I don't know. If anyone happens to know the names, the technical names for the parts of a flute, do let me know. Okay, this is going to get a little noisy as I work fast. If I can get that to turn. There we go. Some compression wood here. Which isn't surprising. Like I said, this was the end of a branch. And again, like I was saying about tool marks, I'm not particularly concerned. With the last piece, I did have tool marks remaining when I went to do the drilling, but those would have been taken out in the sanding process anyway. With this piece, this one, that's going to be even less of a concern because the heartwood on this one is much, much thicker. And actually, the last process you guys see me do tonight will actually be doing this. I was thinking I might do the cut here, but what I have to do before I do that is actually cut this down, get that lined up properly, and then take off a little bit of the sapwood before I do that, because I don't want to put this bare wood into my cutting jig again. I had a hell of a time cleaning up my cutting jig last time, and because my cutting jig is only made of poplar, it will wear down very rapidly under sanding. So what I will be doing is finishing the strip on this, getting this basically lined up to the edge of the bark, basically this edge here, and then I will be slicing away some of the sapwood with this knife, which will probably take a little bit of work, probably a stream or so. If you get into woodwork thinking it's fast work, fast money, you are very much mistaken. But as my instructor once said, good work is not fast nor cheap. fast work is neither cheap nor good, and cheap work is neither fast nor good. If, for example, you find someone who can guarantee you delivery of a set of cabinets in a week, one of two things is going on. Either they're not doing custom work, which probably means they're having some other company do the cutting for them, and then they're really just assembling them, or they're doing something very shoddy, which means your quality will probably be pretty low. But generally, something like a set of cabinets, like the average kitchen cabinets, should take about a week to build, and then a day at the most, really, to be fair. Even if the guy is working by himself, it should only take a day to put them in. And most cabinet makers don't work alone when it comes to installations. With the cabinets here in the shed, I did work by myself to put them up. It was a fairly strenuous process because I had to lift the cabinets into place, put them up on what's known as a nailing board, which, if I get the angle right, yeah, you can see the nailing board under here. That's a 1/2 inch board or 3/4 inch board that I basically let the weight of the cabinet sit on with my chest pressed against the front of it with the doors open, and then screwed it to the wall. Fun times. But we do what we have to when we are in extremis. So I'm just about done with this now. I'm just going to do this last bit of chipping at the base here. And then I'll spend a few minutes with you guys again while I have another smoke. And then I'm going into the house and probably to bed. I started to shill earlier as well. And actually forgot to finish. So, as I was saying, tomorrow night, Thursday, there is the Shades of Dominion game over on Carnal Conservatives channel. And all the links for this stuff will be in the video tomorrow. If I feel particularly motivated after this stream is over, I may put them in the description of this stream as well. But I wouldn't bet on that. There we go. Okay, so that is that process. I'm just looking to see how much blue stain I have on this. There's a little bit there. You can see kind of a grayish, bluish coloring here. There's a little bit there, some there. Now this was a tree that was beside a softball field. So this may in fact be bruising rather than blue stain. There's a lump there. I don't think it's necessarily bruising. I think it is blue stain. Blue stain is a bacteria that infects some trees. It's mostly harmless, but it does change the color of the wood a little bit in some spots. It can be considered less attractive. It won't be an issue once I get into the heartwood, because generally you only get blue stain in sapwood. Okay, I'm going to do a little curling of this before I finish tonight, I think, since I'm still feeling a little bit motivated. And I still haven't finished that shilling because, well, squirrel. So, tomorrow night, Shades of Dominion on the Carnal Conservative channel. On Saturday morning, the Sultans of Shadilay. That link will be in the description because that's in a copy-paste description that I created earlier this week. Let's see. Then there will be my regular live stream, the Ask Ardent stream on Sunday. I'm not certain I'm happy with that. I may take a little more off because I don't think that length is going to be great for playing. And what I'll do when I go to do this next stream for this, actually I'm going to put that on the table. When I go to do the next stream for this, excuse me, I will be, and I do realize I'm quite shiny now, so let me, there we go, that's a bit better on the chroma, I think, as long as I keep my head up. You go over there, pull this thing back on just to keep the chroma from losing its mind. And I'll see what you guys are saying while I'm having my last smoke for the evening. In the meantime, I'm taking my apron off because it's quite hot in this thing. Yeah, it's, oops, almost pulled the cover off my pencil and lost it that time. It's quite surprising how sweaty you can get sitting down. Just get my straps organized here. There we are, and I can hang that up any little bit when I go to leave. Whew. Yeah, it's actually surprisingly warm doing that. Okay, so wooden robo-waifu could be made if she nags you. Okay. Explains the property of the wooden Indians selling cigars with the ladies. I'm not sure about that one. She would need to be coated with yacht varnish and well washed. Secondhand. You would have to find some way to clean her, yeah. A good sanding would probably do it. The cyborg managed to make a flute in that Aliens movie you don't like, Prometheus or Covenant. You're talking about David? David was probably programmed to do all that shit. I'm teaching myself. But yeah, I didn't particularly care for Prometheus or Alien Covenant. A gizmo key. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, come on. Of course I put the cap too hard on that. For the record, I use a jam jar for an ashtray. Technical term for flutes. Why are you using a pocket knife? Because I'm a poor Billy. I would far prefer to use, with that particular process, I would far prefer to have a cabinet scraper. Unfortunately, I have no ability to purchase one here unless I buy online, and I prefer to support local business as much as possible. So what I'm planning is the 3 or 4 items that I really, really need, I will be looking at buying, hopefully from a nearby, well, not a nearby store, but a store in the next town over. That's about an hour's drive. I've had hit and miss luck with tools I've bought online. Again, I'm a poor, so it's really difficult to afford anything in the first place, and even more difficult to afford anything of better than bargain basement quality. What would I use? For that particular process, I would be clamping in my homemade jig, and there's an item called a cabinet scraper. It basically looks like a card, file card sized piece of steel. And what you do is you clamp that into a vise, and you basically cause the edges of the top to take on a sort of a mushroom profile, and you use both hands and getting the angle right, and that's the technique of it. You're basically just doing the same thing I was doing with the edge of the blade. You're just scraping off thin layers. Bezic better be around Saturday. I haven't heard anything saying otherwise. The pocket knife is for beginner streams until more people watch learn how to build stuff with less expensive equipment. I could bullshit and say that, or I could simply say, no, I work with what I have. which is actually the truth. I work with what I've got available to hand. I've got a few tools that I have purchased. I've got some hand-me-down equipment, and very few things that I've either made or purchased new. For example, all my planes are hand-me-down. I've got 3 planes. One is a small jack plane. One is a larger Stanley. I actually have 2 of the same size of the Stanley. The problem with one of them is that it needs a lot of conditioning. It needs a lot of rework. Oh, it's right here. This one came from my uncle, who passed away about 3 years ago now, I think. As you can see, it wasn't well cared for. It's very corroded on the sides. I've already taken off the grips and cleaned them up. The blade, on the other hand, if you can see in there, is severely chipped. So one of the first things I do have to buy new is a bench grinder. And that's part of the reason there's always a PayPal/donation link in the description. Every cent I get from that is going to go into doing this, either for YouTube equipment or software, if needed, or for actual tools and supplies. Right now, I think I'm doing okay for sandpaper, because that's what all that stuff is. And I have adhesives. This is all sandpaper here as well. That is a little sanding sponge, which is actually a piece of garbage. My adhesives are up there. That includes my tape. I have a couple of sets of tools that I don't need for doing woodwork, specifically. So I will probably be getting rid of those at a yard sale. I think I'm okay for clamps at this point, though it really is a truism that a cabinet maker can't have enough clamps. I've got 3 saws, 4 saws if you count the really cheap miter box set that I bought. Bleach scissor, lead-based, like West Taiwan work. And that's another issue as well. I don't necessarily mind a lot of the West Taiwanese stuff, but generally it's like an artist. You don't get the best results without the best tools and materials. And to be honest, I'm doing my damnedest right now to save up some money so that I can purchase some actual good rough lumber that I can build directly from, rather than having scavenged stuff, which is what all of this stuff is. This is all just scavenged pieces, which kind of limits me to craft level woodwork, which I don't mind. I actually do really like that. I mean, I'm having a great time teaching myself how to build a flute. I would really like a bore that I could use to get all the way down through the flute and actually have a proper full-length flute. But that's a thing for another day. The pocket knives for beginners. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, talking about like the West Taiwanese stuff. A lot of the West Taiwanese stuff tends to be less durable than I'd like. It's probably the best way to put it. Oh, there goes the back. Okay. Yeah, the West Taiwanese stuff tends to be a lot less durable than I would like. Also, it can be a little less precise than it should be. Do I stream on multiple platforms? Not at the moment. Right now, I'm confining to YouTube. I was under the impression a couple of weeks ago that I was able to sync my channel to Odyssey, because in flipping through some of the backstage stuff on Odyssey, I thought I had seen something that said that I was qualified to sync my channel. So I hit the button, and it took hours because, well, this is probably what, this might be getting close to 250 videos, I think, now on my channel. Um, but it took a long time to go through that process, and then at the end it told me, oh, by the way, you're not actually qualified to sync. Oh, gee, thanks. No, sorry, I take that back. It didn't actually tell me. I had to go and find that it had not actually synced, and then I had to contact their customer support, or their support staff, or whatever the hell you want to call them. And they were kind enough to inform me that I don't actually, in fact, have enough watch time or enough videos uploaded to sync. That said, if I was able to sync my videos, I would immediately be getting watch time. What are you going to do? And it's the same thing with Rumble as well. Though I do have videos on Rumble. I have some Gab exclusives that I've done because those tend to be fairly spicy. What else? I have a Getter account, which has 412 followers right now, I think, as of earlier today. Which, I mean, I was getting amazing engagement on Getter for quite a while. A lot of the follows I have now seem to be just people following and expecting me to follow back, and then when I don't, they stop following me. The cruel disconnect of the new tech platforms. Yeah, the newer stuff. A lot of the business practices, I don't understand them, and I suspect it's because I'm not looking at the back end. Like, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. But it strikes me that if Odyssey is willing to let me sync my YouTube channel, I should be able to do it no matter what. But they won't. Rumble, same thing. Now, to be fair, Rumble bills itself as a competitor to YouTube, so I understand. Double Out 22 asks me, and Odyssey, you can't upload anything that's not somewhere else like YouTube. No, on Odyssey, I could absolutely upload all the stuff that's on my YouTube as well. And at some point when I have another forced day off, I will probably spend some time doing that, uploading videos to my Rumble and my Odyssey accounts. But as of right now, I don't know. Oh, geez, just blew the chroma out again. But as of right now, this will probably help the chroma. I just take this dark thing and throw it across my shoulder. As of right now, I don't know if I can stream on Rumble. YouTube was completely unhelpful for knowing that I could stream live on a mobile device. When I first started my YouTube account, I was informed in no uncertain terms by the program that I was not eligible to stream live, though I could make shorts. Later, I was able to upload from mobile. Sorry, I have that backwards. I was able to upload mobile immediately, so I could record a video and then upload it right away, which is how I've been doing my daily videos. A little while later, I was never told I could upload shorts direct from my mobile in the app. And then 3 weeks ago now, I think it is, I discovered by accident that I could go live on my mobile device finally. YouTube never did email me to let me know, never did tell me at all. Which, if my actual intent in running a platform was to make money, I would make damn sure everybody knew they could throw more content on it as soon as they could do so. But I think we're all fairly aware that YouTube's stated mission policy or business policy is not their actual policy. I've got a chip of wood down on my boot. Just a second. Get out. Find your own ride. It's very hard not to be disheartened by the way YouTube handles small creators. I've been fortunate enough to have actually interacted with some of the YouTube staff, not in a account manager sort of position, but just an information gathering position. And in the course of the conversation I had with that guy, it became very clear that he was bottom rung and very much not motivated to help the company make money. He made a couple of very, very telling statements that indicated his very leftist bias, at which point I thought it was best to terminate the conversation for the sake of my channel. And I did so as politely as I could. Because what was happening was I would ask him a question that had a very clear, very empirical answer. And I would receive a response that was vague as a foggy night in Newfoundland. Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else said anything a little bit? Depending on your streaming tool, can't just sync it. It is weird. Yeah, it very much is. You can't just sync it while it's live streaming. I may be able to do that. I'm a boomer. But I'm using the YouTube app to do this, so depending on your streaming tool, if you consider doing a weekly exclusive on new tech, I really wouldn't mind doing that, but at this point, YouTube takes up a hell of a lot of my time. And learning a new platform is daunting, to say the least. I've said it before, and I absolutely guarantee I will say it again. Damn it, Jim, I'm a woodworker, not tech support. Anyway, guys, I'm going to cut it off here. Very tired. I want something to drink, something to snack on, and something to lay on. Preferably a big titty redhead, but that ain't going to happen, so I'll have to settle for my bed. Let's see. Anybody saying anything else? No? Okay. You guys have a good night, and rise and rise again until lambs become lions. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.